What's up, friends? So we're very excited about this video. It's been 1 year in the making. Been living full-time in our RV for 1 year.
1 whole year.
Yeah.
It's pretty wild.
Originally, I think when we started, we had grandiose idea of like, oh yeah, we'll just be in there for like 6 months, maybe a year, pushing it. Yeah, I was thinking it's probably gonna be like 2.
Probably 2.
At the end of it.
Ish.
So.
Yeah. But now that we've been in the RV for a year, we thought we would share things that we've learned, kind of best and worst parts, and really the realities of actually living full-time in an RV.
Mm-hmm.
It's not everything you see on YouTube or Instagram or TikTok.
Do not believe 90% of the stuff you see on social media, which we all know.
Yeah.
We all know that. I mean, people post the best parts of an experience, and sometimes, you know, you have to go through hell to get to there.
Yeah.
I'm not saying we went through hell.
I'm also not saying we didn't go through hell. Yeah.
So Chelsea annotated common questions that we've been receiving from some friends, family, sometimes in comments from our videos. Mm-hmm. And we're going to try to address some of those. If you have any more that you want to know that we don't hit, please make a comment below, and we'll answer that as soon as we can. Usually it's very fast because we have nothing. It's not like we have like 1,000 million subscribers or a lot of comments or anything, so give us the comments.
Give us the comments.
Anyways,
so let's do the first question.
Yeah, let's jump right in. One of the first questions we got was, how hard was it or difficult was it to move from a single family home into an RV?
Yeah, I would say that it was actually easier than we thought it was going to be, only because we had taken so many months in preparation. We actually bought our old house pretty much knowing we'd only live there for 3 years, but we thought it was because we'd be moving for Brian's job in the Air Force at the end of that.
Yeah.
That all changed. Instead, we ended up renovating the house and selling it and then moving into our RV, but we didn't really change like our long-term goals to do that. So from like a mental standpoint, it wasn't too hard. Yeah,
when we first started dating, I had a 1,500 square foot townhouse, and then we downsized into a 1,000 square foot house, which we did get rid of some stuff. We didn't get rid of a lot, but we got rid
enough.
We got rid of quite a bit. And then as we lived in that house, we still purged things. We just didn't want to be hoarders, and when downgrading into 200 square feet.
We say it's 200 square feet. I don't know if we actually
don't
know, but we're going to call it 200.
Yeah, it's not that big.
No.
So the transition wasn't too bad. One thing that I would say helps was getting into a cleaning routine, at least a daily, vacuuming every day, basically going to bed with everything pretty much wiped down. Nothing too crazy. I mean, every once a week we do scrub things.
It gets cluttered very fast. Yeah. I think that was a big transition point.
Decluttering.
Another thing that we did that helped with the transition was we renovated the RV to make it feel more homey. We swapped out light fixtures, we painted, we made the shower feel more like a residential style shower with a shower bar and curtain. Little things like that helped. We swapped out the RV furniture like the day we got it, basically, the dinette and the sofa, and put residential style furniture in. And
when Chelsea says we, she's mainly saying her, because I was very clear on how much I don't care about this trailer. I was like, if the only thing I cared about was having a decent couch, which I picked out, and that we should do a review just on that couch because I would never buy that again. Chelsea planned out all the painting and the fixtures. She planned it out. She basically, if you see those TikToks, which we don't watch, or Instagram reels, and it's like, oh, you see your wife just staring at a wall, something's coming up. Basically, she picked everything out. I changed the fixtures. I had to figure out the voltage and everything. I was like, hey, that's not going to work because it's the wrong voltage, and I just helped out with that stuff. And installing everything.
I want to say that helped just because of how much effort we put into it, but I think it makes our space cozier, and we've been in other RVs, and it does make a dramatic difference.
Yeah.
How long did it take to learn the ins and outs of RVing while we were traveling? That's a good question.
That's a good question.
We have to actually think about that one.
Yeah. I would say I'm still learning every day. It's been a year. Traveling during the winter has been a fairly big learning process. Having a good attitude really is what helps, because just like everything in life, if you have a bad attitude about stuff, I mean, it's going to be pretty bad.
Yeah. Our first trip in the RV was when we moved from Tampa to Colorado, and it was like a 2 or 3 week trip. We stopped in some places.
Yeah.
And that was when we learned, essentially.
Learned a lot.
And we learned then, and on the road doing it. We didn't go take a course or whatever.
No.
We lived in it probably 3 months before we left, so like April, May, June.
On her parents' property.
Yep, so we were stationary. We learned about the RV in that way, and then we just had
good.
to, it was actually really great to
really
do that. And then we took it on the road and learned everything then. We made mistakes. And then when we started traveling again this winter, it was kind of like relearning that again. So we move more slowly now, but travel days are still pretty hectic.
I mean, there's going to be added stresses to it, and there's things that you can do to alleviate, having a good hitch, knowing your payload capacities. That's the biggest one, your weight.
Yep.
And there's a lot of stuff I didn't understand about the difference between payload and tongue weight and all that stuff, and it all comes together. For someone who's not in that world, it can be overwhelming, so just learn as much as you can through people's experiences and whatever you can find online or whatnot, so because it's really not that bad. If you could make any changes to your rig, what would you do?
I know your answer to this question.
What's my answer?
Your answer is get a bigger RV.
Get a bigger RV. Yeah. So there's a couple of reasons why we did choose the trailer that we have now. The main reason was we wanted something that wasn't too big because of the truck that we had at the time. We had a 1500. And so the biggest thing I was trying to focus on was how much it could tow and how much the payload capacity was. We ended up getting it. We had the truck first, right? We did have the truck first.
With the truck initially.
Yeah, and then we based our trailer decision based on the truck, and the trailer we decided to get was right kind of on the top end of the weight. We're like, hey, our truck can handle it. And everyone said, oh, your truck can handle it. Your dad probably was like, you need to get a bigger truck, but he says about everything. So, Doug, I love you to death, but my finances can only afford so much truck, and that's what we went with.
That is true.
After having the truck and the trailer, it was fine. It was totally fine, towing wise and everything. But we realized that we're gonna need a bigger truck for like some of the building materials and stuff that we're going to need.
Getting up Big Bad Hill near our house.
So we have a big hill, if you know anything about our property, that we have to get overcome. I probably would just get a fifth wheel, get a bigger truck than I have. But
if you could do it all over again, you mean?
Yeah. If I could do it all over again. I think, because the thing was that we did think about getting a huge truck. We did think about it, and we did think about getting a bigger trailer. But, and bigger isn't necessarily better.
No.
But when you're in a small space with the person you love dearly, and then two dogs.
So much.
You have two dogs, and
you just want to get out of there.
sometimes you need privacy, you know?
Yeah.
Sometimes you just need,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Every
so,
person needs that.
Yeah. But, again, having good attitude, it helps.
Yeah, there isn't much I would change, because if I think about what I would change, it's that I would pick a different trailer if I was traveling for short periods of time.
Correct.
Versus if I was living in it full time. This has worked out pretty well for us, knowing it's like a temporary living situation while we build our house.
Yes.
But we've talked about potentially, once we have a house, maybe we'll travel in an RV again someday and we'll do short trips. I would choose an entirely different trailer for that.
Yeah, entirely different trailer, probably slightly smaller.
Yes.
Actually, I would go smaller for if I was just traveling to have some fun, to get away. If I use it for what it's for, camping and, getting outside and whatnot.
Okay, so next question. Do we prefer traveling in our RV, or do we prefer being stationary?
Yeah.
I know which I prefer. I definitely prefer being stationary.
Yeah, stationary for sure.
But that meaning, I'm gonna paraphrase that or rephrase that, meaning that I prefer slow travel over how we moved from Tampa to Colorado.
Yeah, that was rough.
That was really hard.
That was really hard because we were in places, one night. So we get there in the evening, set it up, and then
basically eat and go to bed.
Go to bed, and have to tear it down and and take off.
But we've definitely, over this great winter migration we've been doing, in terms of traveling, I would say like the 1 month mark has been pretty good.
Yeah.
We've talked potentially like, oh, if we had to do it again, would we stay somewhere for 2 or 3 months at a time, or even the whole season?
Yeah.
Just because of some of the technicalities of winter RV living. But it's definitely a lot better than like changing places every day or every couple of days.
Yeah.
That's just exhausting.
Mm-hmm. Another reason why stationary is better if you stay at RV parks is usually the rates are a little more fair if you extend to a month. For example,
usually it's like 50% cheaper.
Yeah, 50%. It could be anywhere from $1,500 for one whole month or $3,000. So if you just pay by the day, you could be 28 days, $3,000, or 30 days, $1,500. Just using that example.
Yeah.
Question 5. What is the biggest mistake you've made living full-time in an RV? I don't know if there's one.
There's so many.
There's a lot. I would say the biggest one that I made fairly fast in it was I didn't use my checklist.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't use my checklist when we were unhooking. So that was a big one. I actually, and I hate saying this, but like to prevent someone else from doing the same mistake, I did I unhook the trailer? I unhooked the trailer before I chalked it.
Yep.
Which is a big no-no. And it was a little
slope. Yep.
And so trailer came off the truck and then just slid. Maybe it was a couple feet.
It did move.
The trailer came off the truck. It came off the, I had the tongue jack on some blocks.
Oh, yeah.
And that came off the block. So it didn't come down too far. It was like 6 inches maybe 8. But so that slammed down and it slid down quite a bit. So it's scary.
I kind of saw my life flash before my eyes. I was like, we're like 3 days into this and our trailer's about to fall off a hill.
Yeah. So, and that was my fault. It wasn't.
But it was okay.
It didn't fall off the hill.
It did not.
It did not. But the tongue jack, this extension part, it got buckled a little bit and couldn't use that. So I took that off.
But it was fine. But we learned. Checklist is very important.
Using a checklist when you're unhitching and hitching up when you're moving. So anything else?
Not using a water pressure regulator has caused some plumbing issues in our rig. A lot of RV parks, just because there's so many spots, they have really high water pressure. And it took us a bit to realize that if you have an exterior water pressure regulator, it keeps your pipes from like leaking inside.
Yeah.
So for a really long time, we had this leak underneath our bathroom sink. And sometimes we've had a leak behind the wall that is...
right where the water comes in.
Yes, behind the shower.
Yeah.
So having to deal with that has been definitely troublesome. Like Brian's had to fix it a few times. But this RV park told us that we needed a water pressure regulator, so we got one.
Which is interesting because every other place we've been cold, they said don't use a water pressure regulator because it will freeze.
Yeah.
But
we've used
we
it
made
here.
It work.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and it eliminated the leaking.
Yeah. So the leaks weren't too bad. It was very annoying. I learned a lot of simple plumbing skills from Chelsea's father actually, and I was able to fix them pretty quickly. But like for some reason, my brain didn't wrap around that it was the water pressure that was the problem. I was just like, this piece keeps leaking. No big deal. It's not leaking now, and whatever. Water pressure, who needs it?
So for the last 2 questions, it's kind of a 1-2, and we're each going to give our own separate answers because it's somewhat personal preference. So the last 2 questions are, what is the best part about living in an RV full-time, and what is the worst part about living in an RV full-time?
Best thing, from my experience for the past year living full-time in an RV, is the fact that I don't feel tied down to any place, which is pretty cool, but it also is pretty bad. I would say it's not the worst part, but when we go back to the attitude part, that's if you have a bad attitude, it could be the worst, and I'll get into that in a second. So not being tied down and being able to travel and do whatever we want is super cool. This is the most freeing kind of time in my life I ever felt, where it's like, oh, I don't want to be here. I could just leave. If you have a bad attitude with knowing like, oh, I don't feel tied down, which I have at some point. I had a couple of mental, I wouldn't say breakdowns, but yeah, maybe mental breakdowns where I'm just like, I don't feel like I have a house. I don't have a home. House is a building, but a home is somewhere, you know, you feel comfortable and you feel safe and whatnot. Because we're always, when it was really cold and pipes are freezing and you can't even drink some water or go to the bathroom, your couch breaks and you have one seat and you don't have, and you get to a point where it's like a victim. I think it's very easy to be like, my life sucks. I live in a trailer. and I can't say that I haven't cried being sad at some points, but it's also on the hindsight of it, there's beauty in that, and the fact that I'm like, I could just like go to Washington State right now if I wanted to, provided I can afford the gas and have a place to stay and a place to hook up and all that stuff. You know, I can just do that. I can get up and go, or we can. I guess she can come, and I'm just kidding. But yeah, what about your best? I might still have a worst, but that could be my best and worst.
Yeah, it's kind of a double-edged sword.
I think
for
it really
sure
is. Yeah.
I think the best is, I've always wanted to have like a semi-nomadic period of my life, and I didn't do it when I was single. And when we were first together, we were, you know, very much grounded in the homes that we were in. So when we decided to build in Westcliff, I kind of was just like, oh, well, we'll live in an RV, but it's just a structure for us to stay in while we're building. So it was definitely stressful and a little morale breaking to have to leave when we felt that the wind was just too much to deal with and unsafe to build. But it did allow for that exploration that I really wanted. So it's not always easy, but having this period where we've been traveling like for, you know, a month at a time to different places has really like, it's a huge bucket list item for me actually. So it's been really cool. Again, it's not always easy. You don't get to do everything you want. It's on a vacation. Like I work a day job, but it's still really cool to be like, hey, this month I'm in Utah. Last month I was in Oklahoma. I've been to Taos. I've been to Durango, like all these places I've never been. So that's definitely the best part. It's not something I want to do forever, but it's great for this period of our lives.
Exactly. I wouldn't say that I want to do this full time.
No.
Indefinitely. I reflecting back on life in my 20s, this is something I never would have considered doing because I just didn't have an interest. I never was exposed to RV life. I used to go camping as a kid, and whenever I got to the point where if I could choose to go with my family or not, I started not going. I was like, oh, I don't have to go if I don't want to. I don't have to sleep in a tent tonight.
Yeah.
Well, let's not. So the RV lifestyle was not something that was ever appealing to me. It kind of seemed like I'm either going to do that whenever I can afford $1 million rig, which I can't, and will I be able to? I don't know. I'm not really working towards that. If I was exposed to it and interested in it in my 20s, I would have preferred to do this in that time, as opposed to now. But because we can, now, we are. What Chelsea was saying with us leaving Westcliff, we were not planning on this at all. I was very discouraged. The biggest reason is we were planning to do a home build, and then all of a sudden we're like, oh, we can't. Or we can, it's just going to be hell.
It'd be so hard.
It'd be hard.
Yeah.
It's going to be hard already. In hindsight, it's been really great personally for us to take a step back from our project in Westcliff and do a little bit more planning. And I'm not even done with it. I have a lot more planning to do over the next couple of weeks. That's like my job is preparing for that stuff, making sure we can get the materials at the right time and all this project management stuff, basically. I think if we stayed in Westcliff, there would have been a lot more mistakes that were made rather than us taking a step back and traveling and trying to enjoy time together and in the Southwest and whatnot. So yeah.
The worst part for me, because I have a weird like pet peeve or like audio tick, is I have to use noise canceling headphones a lot. It makes me irrationally angry to hear people chew or like mouth noises. Like we make fun of our dog Jazz for having mouth noises, but if I hear like people do that, I'm like I can't function. So Brian was very nice and got me a very nice pair of noise canceling headphones for my birthday, which has been really helpful. But it's like you were saying, like sometimes each person just needs like their own space, their own time to like introvert. So it's things like that, like little noises and stuff. It's like you have to think of ways to get around it because you just can't. You can't be like, okay, we're going to eat in another room or whatever. It's just like, I don't know. That's like a personal problem for me.
Yeah.
But it's coexisting with people, you know, unless you have your own trailer and you don't have to deal with that, I guess. But
Yeah.
that's true. You could just go solo travel and not deal with that problem. But
Nothing wrong with that.
nothing wrong with that. You go solo travel.
Yeah.
Do it. Live your dream.
Live your dream.
Get that van. A lot of people tell us, oh, I could never like live with my spouse in 200 square feet.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think either of us would have said 3 or 5 years ago, like, I don't want to live with you in 200 square
No, I
feet.
thought it was too small.
But we have our goal and our mindset and what we're trying to achieve, so we can do it.
Yep.
So you can do it too.
Yeah, whatever it is.
Did you know this was going to be a motivational video?
Yeah, dude. Just
What it is! So that's the best and worst parts about living in an RV that we found out from this first year.
Yeah, there's so many awesome experiences that we've had. And there's also been a lot of
Learning.
difficult times, but we call them learning experiences, right? And I think our dog hates it.
Our dog clearly hates it. She's losing her mind in there.
She does. If you have any comments, concerns,
Question.
suggestions, questions, please let us know, especially questions about our experience. This video is probably way longer than it needs to be, and it could probably be way longer. I could probably talk hours about this topic, and I've only been living in it for a year.
Yeah.
So, but if you have anything that you want to add, please do. We'd love to hear from you. We love you guys. Thank you for watching, and yeah, we're very, very, we appreciate all 314 of you that have subscribed.
Thank you, all 314 of you.
Yeah.
Let's hope we don't have to do a second year recap of living in an RV. That's a wrap.